Hey. All right, welcome everybody. This is a presentation about how to manage anxiety for senior year. So before we get started, I just wanted to allow everybody an opportunity just to kind of settle in. If you're needing to get rid of distractions or turn off your phone, feel free to do so and get a comfortable seat. And we're just going to be together for 45 minutes or so chatting about some ways to manage our anxiety. Um, so my name is Sara Hudson. I am a therapist at RDU Therapy. I have been in the mental health field for about 15 years, working with many different populations, adults, teenagers like yourselves, families, and in lots of different settings. So I am very excited today to share with you all some techniques to help us manage these worries that come up when we're finishing up our senior year. So, this will not be kind of everything that you can do. There are many, many ways to manage anxiety. It'll just hopefully give you a couple of tools that you can use, things to think about, this year and carry with you, through the rest of your year as you are moving through the college application process and this big life transition. All right, so you made it. Very exciting. Congratulations. It's quite an accomplishment to get to senior year. And, some of you might be feeling like, whoa, yikes, I'm here. What do I do? There's a lot going on in senior year. There's applying to college, figuring out if college is even for you, maybe some, post high school plans you're thinking about in addition to or instead of college. A lot of people are having proms and parties and class events and traditions that you're doing, as you're finishing up your school. There's also a lot of academics. So you might have final projects. You might be, thinking about those final grades. If you're an athlete, there might be some competitions and some final sporting events that you're doing. All kinds of final stuff coming up. You also maybe have something that's called senioritis. That's what it was called back in the day when I was in high school. This idea that, you're sort of done. You put in a lot of work. You're just kind of waiting for the end of the year. So you might start feeling, some of this kind of I'm done sort of feeling, senioritis and wanting it to be finished. It's also a time for saying goodbye to family, to friends, to your day-to-day activities. Some people maybe are moving somewhere. Um, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of shift in relationships. This is a big transition period, so I want to recognize that for everybody, regardless of what you might be doing after high school or wherever you might be going to college, if that's what you're doing. This is a big life transition. You're going to be saying hello to a lot of new things, a lot of new people, um, and it can be really, really stressful time. So there's lots of feelings, right? So there might be some feelings of dread, some fear, some excitement, some pride, and all the things that you've done. Maybe some sadness about, transitioning somewhere else, and some overwhelm and some worry. Those are some common feelings that kids are going through when they are sort of in this part of their high school experience, particularly around applying for college. Um, it can be a very, very stressful time, and sometimes there's pressure coming from yourself, or these feelings are coming up within you, and then sometimes other people are worried about your college process and your plans, and they're letting you know that, or they're feeling worried as well. So we're going to talk some about, like, how do we manage our feelings of anxiety with this whole process of figuring out, where am I going to go to college, right? So the process could include, what am I doing? Who do I talk to? When do I do this? Where am I going? How do I like all the things? And we also, sometimes people have worry about the outcome as well, but we'll sort of focus on just the process for now. Um, some of these things I'll talk about can certainly apply to, worries about the outcome. But, for today, for the time that we have, we'll just focus on how do we manage our worries about the process for applying to college. Okay. So, one thing that I have found helpful in looking at different strategies is to think about all the different areas that we experience worry and anxiety within our system. So, dividing it into three sort of buckets or areas might also be useful to you. So, the first one is there are things we can do about our worry thoughts. So, with our brain um, and what we're thinking. So, the question sort of for this strategy or this sort of framework is what do I do about my worry thoughts that are coming up? So, worry thought is, something like, I'm so worried about where I'm going. I don't know what to do. How am I gonna, get some help? I'm so lost. Like anything that you're thinking about the process would fall into this bucket of a worry thought that we're thinking with our brain. So there are strategies that you can use to help calm down those thoughts and feel like you're in control of them and perhaps redirect them. So that's going to be part of the strategies. The second one is your body, right? So, how do you calm down your body when it's nervous? How do you know if you're feeling worry? Sometimes we maybe don't have a thought that we're aware of, but we might just feel it in our bodies. So, what are some things that we can do, ways that we can be with our bodies that will help us to feel a little bit more relaxed? And then the final one is around our behaviors. So, what actions can I take when I'm worried? What can I do? This is, known as a behavior activation strategy. So, these are all things that you can pull from. You can put them all together. You can do any of them. You can do a combination, ones that you like, whatever resonates with you, you can choose. So think, be, and do, right? So those are ways maybe to remember these different categories of strategies. Okay. So um, managing worry thoughts. So this has to do with using our brain and the way that we think. So, a few ideas that I have found to be helpful with the clients that I have worked with, that I am working with, is I just picked 3, and there are, like I said, there are others, and there, you know, many different ways, but these are 3 that I find, with my clients that they're often helpful. So the first one is positive self-talk. Also, so another way of thinking about this is, cheerleading. So you say, I know I can get through this. These are just worries. Whatever happens, I will be okay. I can handle this. So, what are things that you can think, things that you can say to yourself, phrases that sort of give yourself a pep talk? Um, Another part of this is thinking of a statement that has the word and. So, an example might be I am really worried and I know that I can get through this. Or something like, this is really hard and I'm going to ask for some help. Um, you know, thinking about, when you have a worry thought, how can you sort of widen the frame a little bit so that you have sort of a full picture of the situation. So that's another aspect of this. You know, moving on to the second one is thinking about, having a specific time that you're worrying. So this is, picking a time where you're going to say, I'm going to think about everything that worries me about this whole process. And you worry about them. So you decide, I'm going to spend 15 minutes when I get up today and I'm going to write down all the things that I'm worried about. I'm worried about, where do I learn which colleges are available? How do I fill out an application? What is the test that I need to submit? Who do I talk to? You list every single thing that is worrying you and you write it down somewhere. And that's your time that you worry. And then, you move about your day and then maybe, you do it again the next day. Another thing that could be helpful is, using your imagination. So using the brain that you have sort of to create in your head, scenarios that potentially could happen. And then what would you do about it? So, maybe the worst case scenario is that you apply to college and you don't get into anywhere and your family is upset and you're upset and you're not going to get a job and all these things start spiraling and then you think about, well, how would I handle that? And so the idea of that is to think about the end result of this worry is that you're going to be okay. You will be able to handle it. It might be unpleasant, it might not be the outcome that you expected, and yet how can you handle it in a way that is helpful to you? It might also give you some confidence around this, um, knowing that you'll be able to handle it. So those are a few strategies that may help with managing some of the worry thoughts that you may have around applying for college. So, yeah. So the next one is around our bodies. So sometimes, we notice that our bodies are giving us information and telling us about how we feel. So often, when we're feeling worried, our body is doing something. So you might feel shaky, your voice might be shaky, you might be sweating, have some stomach discomfort, some rapid breathing. You're thinking about this whole process of college, and your body is just sort of like feels hijacked. So there are ways that you can calm your body down um, that will then help you be able to move through this process of applying for college. So I'll give you a couple of examples and try to do a couple of demonstrations that you're welcome to practice with me now or after this presentation, your own time. Give it a try and see if you notice anything shifting in your body. If you notice, you know, um, any changes. So, one thing that you can do is you can manipulate your breath. You can control the way that you're breathing. So, often when we're worried or we're having a heightened reaction to something, our breath is very shallow. We're breathing quickly, something that is moving at a very fast pace. And so, what we want to do is try to do the opposite of that. We want to try to slow things down, right? Because when we're in this anxious, worried state, we're sort of heightened, right? We're kind of activated, we're on alert. And so, we want to try to do not that, right? So, you want to try to breathe from your belly or from your diaphragm in a deep way. So you can try to inhale for 2 and then exhale for 3. Then you may notice something shifting in terms of how you're feeling. And there are many different breathing techniques that you're welcome to explore on your own or definitely reach out to me or to us at RDU therapy, and we can give you some more. It's a good thing to practice, just to notice your breath and to try to deepen it. The second part of this is grounding or visualization. So these are sort of, I group them together, but they're a little bit different. So grounding is the idea of, let's say, anchoring yourself into space. So you're noticing your body and how it is interacting with your environment. So, what I mean by that is if you're sitting like I am, you could notice that your feet might be making contact with the surface right now. It might be on the floor, on a stool, or something, um, underneath your feet. So, noticing, bringing your attention, your awareness to that place of contact. Could also notice, your back. You're sitting again against the chair, focusing just on that part of your body making contact with the chair. And so, a way that I think about this as well is you're sort of standing in power, right? Or you're sitting powerfully. You're sitting in your body. You're finding some sense of control. You're finding a sense of groundedness and the not shakiness that you might be experiencing in your body. So, really feeling sort of some strength, physically. And that can also help us when we're feeling anxious to feel a little bit more in control. Another part of this is the visualization. It's sort of similar to what I mentioned a minute ago, but imagining, a place where you've been perhaps, or that brings you, you'd like to go, that gives you a sense of calm and peace, maybe of relaxation. So, if the beach is a place where you feel relaxed, or you have good memories associated with it, imagine kind of going there, and noticing if that shifts the way that your body is feeling. Um, and so similar to that is, the idea of some mindfulness, some meditation, and some yoga. So you can do yoga, really from wherever you are. It's not necessarily, in a studio or anything like that. You can do it even sitting here with me. So I'll show you a couple of um, yoga, sort of stretches or movements that you may find to help you relax and to feel less anxious. So if you would like to, again, you're welcome to, sort of practice along with me, or watch. So, breathing again, noticing kind of your breath. If you're interested in kind of focusing on that, seeing if that calms you down at all. And then, just a simple sort of head movement to the one side and to the other. And just noticing, like, if you have any sensations that come up, or what happens, if you feel any tension anywhere in your neck muscles. Sometimes we hold tension in places we don't realize. You can do sort of some head circling and movements, noticing if you feel anything in the upper parts of your back. You may want to move your shoulders forward and up and down, finding if there's any kind of spaciousness that shows up, or notice tension. And move your arms across your body. There may be some feelings that you have when you move your arms. All of these things, noticing how our bodies feel, can give us a lot of information, about our moods and our, in this case, our worries, and help us to calm down those parts of us that are activated. So, in addition to sort of these kind of gentle movements, moving our bodies helps us with all of our feelings, but particularly with anxiety. It can really be impactful with helping us manage those feelings. So if you're somebody who, likes to go running or biking or even walking, you notice that these worry thoughts come into your mind about the college process, get up and go for a walk, go for a run, then come back, and look at what you have to do for this process. You could even, do something that doesn't take a ton of time. You could run in place for a couple minutes, discharging kind of this energy that your body might be feeling, could be really helpful to give you, the space that you need to be able to focus on this process of, filling out the applications, doing the research about the schools that you're interested in. So being able just to move can help us with our anxiety. Um, and then even, as kind of a side note, like I said, if you're taking care of your body, that's going to help you with your anxiety too. So, especially this last year of high school when there's so much going on, you really want to pay attention to how you're taking care of yourself physically. So, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, you're going to bed at a good time, getting up at a good time, staying on a regular sleep schedule, eating healthy, drinking lots of water, really taking care of yourself, going to the pediatrician if you have an appointment. If you're not feeling well, stay home and sleep. So paying attention to how your body is feeling and being able to take care of it is going to help you manage these worries as well. So then the third kind of bucket is around like, what do we do? So, there's all this stuff that that is involved with the process of applying to college. And there's activities that have to take place, right? If you're going to do this. So there's specific sort of tasks, behaviors, things that you can do um, for this process to help move you through this anxiety. And so one thing, that might be helpful to think about is, you know, to act not worried and to get busy, right? So just do it. Break down the tasks into realistic steps. So, if you have not started the process and, the deadline you find out for the school you want to go to is, you know, tomorrow, is it realistic for you to do all the things in one day? Maybe, maybe not. If you have applications that you need to fill out and you have five of them, maybe the first thing is picking one, looking at one and seeing, what the first step is. Some people really respond to lists. If you're somebody that makes lists, make them. If you haven't made a list, try it out. It can be really helpful to see in black and white on paper or a computer. What is it that you really need to do? Sometimes our thoughts are telling us that we have so many things and we don't even know kind of what it actually is. And then when we can see it written down, it becomes more clear what exactly the steps are. So that goes along with, the next point around getting organized, finding out, you know, what's due when, using a calendar, scheduling in things. Perhaps you have 30 minutes on a Thursday where you can, research a school, or you can send an email to, a teacher, or make a phone call about something. So schedule these things into your week. Um, and that sort of also goes into, breaking tasks down as well, feeling like you have something that is reasonable and realistic that you can do working towards, this process of applying for college. Um, Finding out what you know and don't know. This one can be really helpful because, sometimes we think that we have to do more than we really do have to do. Or, we've actually already got all of our stuff together. We have some recommendations that we can use from another thing that we applied for. So we don't really need to do this task because it's already been covered. Or maybe this school is not actually asking for an SAT test, so you actually don't need to worry about that. So finding out what you know and what you don't know can help to contain the worry and help you to focus on what really will be a good use of your time. Another part of this is taking a break. Um, Getting up and going for a walk, stepping back from the computer and listening to some music. This can be a really tedious process and there can be lots of pieces involved. And so it can be hard sometimes to keep up the stamina and the momentum to get all these things done if you're trying to just sort of sit down and do it all. So take breaks, take them as often as you need and for as long as you need, especially if you have a plan. Plan for your breaks, write them into your calendar and your schedule, and take advantage of available resources and ask for help. There are lots of resources out there that are available to students. At your school, you may have a guidance counselor, you may have people that you already are working with that can give you some information. Um, Asking for help. There are people that have been through this process before that might be able to give you some really good information. Parents could be helpful, older siblings, teachers, many, many, many resources out there. So things like your library as well. Um, a therapist, if you don't have one, let your parents know that you would like one. Um, we are here to help you. So, your therapist can help you with sort of the worries that you're having. If you have any coaches or mentors, people who kind of can help you both with the process and then with, of course, managing the feelings around it. So that is really all I have. Um, we are here to help in terms of your anxiety. If you're finding that that would really be useful to you to get some support around that and to practice these strategies or to learn some other ones, um, please feel free to reach out to us. My email is listed here. So it's just my last name, which is Hudson, Hudson, at rdutherapy.com. Leah Short works as our practice administrator. She is available as well. You can contact her at intake@rdutherapy.com. Call or text us, check out our website. We're here to help you get through this time in your life, this big transition. So please, reach out. And thank you so much for joining me today and good luck.